Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk podcast / YouTube / We Do It All. As always, I am your host, John. Very happy to be here. NBA Finals is here. It's May 31st. Jay, my brother over there to 6. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great. Finals is here. Going to be a great matchup. Got a returning guest on to talk these finals through, talks the ins and outs. This is gonna be a wild one, Jay. You know I'm feeling good. Feeling great.
Oh, yeah, Jay. I'm happy that you're feeling good. I'm happy that you're feeling great. And like you said, Jay, we have a guest that we've seen on the show before, a familiar name, a familiar face, our guy, Shaba from the Big Shot Pod. My guy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I wish it was the Mavs in the finals, but I'm still doing good. I'm excited for what we're about to watch.
Yes,
and
sir,
I'm always
man.
excited to talk with you guys. So,
yes, sir, man. Well, we are happy to have you. We are happy to have you on, my guy. I'm sure Jay isn't. It doesn't wish that the Mavs were in the finals, but that's exactly why we have both here. Shaba, our Mavericks guy, Jay, our Warriors guy, and me. I'm just here. So, guys, like I said, this is NBA Finals time. Very exciting time. On this episode, we're just gonna really just preview, have it. The preview of the finals, talk about some things that we're looking out for, have this be a lot more of a debate style episode. We're each going to give our take and who we got and why and for whatever many reasons. But before we get into all that and before we even talk about all that, Jay, my brother, can you set the stage for us? For those that have been busy, Jay, there's people who work 9 to 5s every day. You know what I'm saying? They ain't got time to just sit there and watch all these games. And they're wondering, how have the Celtics and the Warriors gotten here? How did he get here? Jay, can you explain to us?
Let's break it down. Let's talk about number one. To me, one of the most thrilling matchups and entertaining matchups that we've seen in NBA Finals in a while. I think this is one of those pick'em style matchups. It could go either way. If you said the Celtics and whatever games, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. If you said the Warriors and whatever games, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense, because both of these teams are so evenly matched. Some of the best defensive teams in the league, some of the most powerful offensive teams in the NBA. So great matchup, star power, Jason Tatum, Stephen Curry, one rising star, one guy who's been there before, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Pool Party, all those guys in the NBA Finals, man. I'm excited. Not only a Warrior fan, basketball fan, just all around. But through the tape, let's talk about that and both of these teams. First of all, this is an interesting matchup because both of the top 3 players on both of these teams were all drafted and homegrown talent. So Jason Tatum, drafted by the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown, another star, drafted by the Boston Celtics. Marcus Smart, drafted by the Boston Celtics. You flip it to the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, we know Stephen Curry, drafted by the Golden State Warriors. Klay Thompson, drafted by the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green, in a steal in the second round, drafted by the Golden State Warriors. So both teams, homegrown talent, just shows you that the game is changing, man. This is great because it shows like you can draft your talent. You don't have to build a super team and you can still be in the NBA Finals. So I love that between both of these teams. So let's get into the numbers. For the Warriors in the regular season, 53 wins, 29 losses. A lot of that to do is with injury, whatever you want to call it. They got Klay Thompson back halfway through the season, and they're 12-4 in the playoffs. So they've had a kind of an easier route, beat Denver in the first round in 5 games. In the conference finals, beat Memphis in 6 games, and in the conference finals, in the conference semifinals, they beat Memphis in 6 games. Conference finals, they beat Dallas in 5 games. A team who likes to get up and down the court, 98.4 in pace, which is 5th in the league. Offensive rating, the best statistically, 116 points per game in the offensive rating, which equals the best in the league. Defensive rating, another great, like I mentioned, a great defensive team with 6 in defensive rating and a net rating of number 2 in the league. So efficiently, they've been some of the best, and at home is where their record is. They're 9 at home, haven't lost at all in the playoffs at home. Who knows, that might change. This is a well-oiled Boston team who has won big key games on the road. most recently, we saw what they did in Game 7 against Miami. So is that bound to change? It might change. To be honest, I have the Warriors, I'll just say right now, losing one of the first 2 games at home. We flip it over to the Celtics, and the last stats I'll put up about them. They're 12-6, so also a good record in the playoffs. Although the last 2 series, we saw them once against the defending champions Milwaukee Bucks. They took them to 7, won in Game 7 at home, and then on the road. Obviously, I just talked about in Miami, Game 7, they were able to take care of business in South Beach. The tail of the tape for them, you could say they played. The Warriors took out in the first round. They took out the MVP, 2-time MVP Nikola Jokic. And in the second round, we saw that, they played 3 games against Ja, 2-1 in those games. And then they take Luka Doncic, with some believe. And arguably, you can make a case who was the best player in the playoffs up to that point. And he certainly had been playing. And you flip it to the Celtics, they've had an extremely tough record. Obviously, maybe even, to be honest, the hardest route, knocking off Kevin Durant, one-time NBA MVP, 2-time NBA champion, Giannis Antetokounmpo, 2-time NBA MVP as well, 1-time NBA champion, and then most recently the Miami Heat culture. You know what they do. They're 7th in pace, 95 a game, so they like to get up and down the floor as well. They got scores, they got slashers. We saw what they did in Game 7 against Miami. With that change of pace, they were able to beat Miami in transition. I think they're going to be able to at some points, they might go small and match the Warriors' small ball lineups as well and play Grant Williams and one big of either Al Horford or Robert Williams. Offensive rating 111, so they're up there too, which equals 8th in the league. Defensive rating 105, which is second. So, like I said, defense is probably going to be the recipe for one of these teams. And net rating 1 plus 6.7, man. So you can see by these numbers, fellas, this is going to be a serious matchup, man. They're nearly identical in every category, consistently, man. So had to run the tail of the tape dive before we start this up.
Yes, sir, Jay, and we appreciate that, Jay, because that was just all the information that we needed. If basically, look, if you haven't been watching all the season, just listen to those couple of minutes, and you will understand exactly why the Celtics and the Warriors are the last 2 teams left in this great NBA season. So we thank you for that, Jay. That amazing breakdown of that. And yes, guys. So now we are here, May 31st. We got NBA Finals to start Game 1 on Thursday, June 2nd. Be real excited about that. But like how we said in the beginning, guys, this is a debate episode. We're gonna run through our picks. We're gonna run through who we got and why we got. And as you guys know, like how we've been doing on this show for some time, me and Jay, we're constantly on the pod. But we don't matter. The guests matter. The family matters. So Shava, we want you to go first. Shava, lay out who you got, reasonings, and why.
Okay, so looking at the Celtics and Warriors, this is actually probably the hardest decision I've had to make because they are so close in so many ways. I mean, both teams are such a defensive threat for whoever they go up against. And we've seen that throughout the playoffs. I mean, and another thing, the Warriors have so much experience. It's crazy. But this Boston team is really young. And I feel like they've gotten a lot of the experience that they need. They've gotten it here in these playoffs. Like you said, Justin, the Celtics, they went through Kevin Durant, they went through Giannis, they went through Jimmy Butler. So that's a lot of challenges, and they obviously won them. The Warriors haven't had that much of a challenge. I think Memphis was probably their hardest, and then Ja Morant went out. So that wasn't a long series. Now, another thing is that the Warriors, they're stacked. Okay. They have a really deep team. I mean, we saw it in the last in the last round, the Celtics playing the Mavs, they had a 7-man rotation. The Warriors were so deep into their bench. I mean, James Wiseman still isn't playing. They got Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. They got so many guys that they can just throw in. So much versatility. I mean, think of Jonathan Kuminga, how athletic he is. He can go up against, a lot of these Celtics players. But look, the Celtics were 11th in the East in January, and something happened where they just flipped the script, and now they're in the final. So it's probably the greatest in-season turnaround. But what it's going to come down to for the Warriors, they need consistent Klay Thompson. He needs to hit shot. They need the very last game where Klay played against the Warriors or against the Mavs in the conference finals. That's the Klay they need. Okay. Curry's going to do Curry things. Draymond's going to do Draymond things. So it's really all up to these role players. I think Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody are going to actually play quite a bit because, like I said, these Celtics are pretty young. The main guys, anyways, and Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart. Now, a big thing is that one thing the Celtics have is that they're big. Okay, the Warriors aren't that big. So they're going to have to play a lot of Bielitsa, Kevon Looney, and obviously they're going to have to go up against Robert Williams, Al Horford, who are bigger and stronger. So this is going to be an interesting one. But looking at it, I just can't pick against the Warriors. The only time I did pick against them was last round against the Mavs. But the Warriors, they're just so tough. They never look nervous. And one thing about the Celtics is, like I said, they don't have as much experience, but this playoff has been a roller coaster for the Celtics. One game, they look incredible. The other game, they're getting blown out. So you never really know what you're going to get, but you do know that they're going to compete. Home teams are 6-9 in the last 15 games here. And the Boston is really good better on the road, really, I would say. So I don't know if you would say it's an advantage that it's a home court advantage for the Warriors. But the Celtics feel comfortable on the road. So that's a big thing. But yeah, coming down to it, I'm going to have to pick the Warriors. Steph Curry, I think, is ultimately going to step up. And, everyone praises the Celtics defense, but the Warriors they're just as efficient defensively. And they have so much shooting. There's just so many ways that the Warriors can attack you. And I almost forgot about this. Another thing, the Warriors, I think a big thing that they have to do is pressure the Celtics. The Celtics don't have a lot of ball handlers. So that's what really they need to do. They need to pressure. I think they need to do a full court pressure, get in their head, make them frustrated with the ball, force them into making bad decisions. And I think that is ultimately what the Warriors are going to have to do. And I think that that's a big part of the formula that they're going to need. But an interesting thing as well is that since Steve Kerr has been head coach for the Warriors, the Celtics are the only team with a winning percentage against the Warriors, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, they have a rookie head coach in Ime Udoka who has been absolutely incredible. He has obviously instilled a mental toughness into these Celtics. I think in previous years, we would have seen them kind of collapse. But this year, they have been professional in every way. They have been believers since the beginning. So I think that this is going to be a really fun finals. I think it's going to be a 7-game series. I mean, I think it's appropriate for it to be a game 7 because the Celtics have gone to 2 game 7s already in these playoffs. So I think it's going to be really fun, a whole lot of shooting. I think it's going to be really physical. But I'm going to have to go with the Warriors on this.
Okay. And Shaba, how many? I mean, so you said 7. So you think Warriors in 7?
Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
So 6. I'm going to say 6 or 7, but because the Celtics are so tough and they just don't give up, I'm going to give them an extra game. But ultimately, I think it's going to go down to the Warriors. But I think that this is the one series. Well, there was the Celtics and Nets was pretty close. But I think this is going to be the closest series here in the entire playoffs because these teams are so well matched up. I'm really excited for this series.
Hey Jay, let me ask you something because Shaba said 6 or 7. Jay, let me ask you something. What do we not do over here on the Clutch Talk podcast, Jay?
You can't be on the fence, Shaba. What is it? 6 or 7 months?
I'm gonna go 7. 7.
Okay, 7. All right.
7. Okay, all right. I love it. So all right, Shaba. So Shaba's got Warriors in 7.
7.
You heard it here on Wax. So all right. So I'm go.
And real quick, just to because I talked about experience, the finals experience. The Warriors players combined, they have 123 games played in the finals. The Celtics 0. So the Warriors have an advantage from that perspective for sure.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And Jay honestly put it perfect at the top of the podcast. He said, if you go Celtics, I wouldn't blame you. If you go Warriors, I wouldn't blame you. So absolutely, man, that Warriors team is a great team. And they're getting ready to gear up against the Celtics. And I totally understand Warriors in 7. Although that's where I think that you are wrong. I agree with you with the 7-game series because 2 great teams, 2 great defensive-minded teams, also 2 great teams that have an endless amount of offensive firepower. So I agree that's going to go 7, but I got Celtics in 7, and here's why. So number one reason to me is the Celtics' length. The Celtics just have extreme length on both ends. I mean, Shaba, you said it when you were talking about the Warriors. I mean, it's no secret that the Warriors struggle against those long, lengthy teams. And the Celtics are exactly that. They got tons of length, and especially they got a lot of length at that guard position. I'm not talking just Big Rob and Big Al down there. I'm talking about even just all around at that guard position with Derek Wright, Marcus Smart, the defensive player of the year, Grant Williams, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, all players who are going to be guarding and on these Warrior guards. So when I think of Stephen Curry, when I think of Jordan Poole, 2 guards who are extremely shifty, quick, but the one thing that they do at times, actually, I'm not going to say that they struggle against, but all defenders, what they try to do against Curry, against Poole, they try to just out physical them, just be way too physical with them and make Curry and Poole really feel them on both ends. And I think that that's exactly what those big guards for the Celtics are going to do. They're going to be physical when guarding Curry, and on the other end, they're really going to make Curry and Poole work to get them tired, right? Make them work on both ends, and that's actually something that, in my opinion, was like for the Warriors, what like the Celtics, like just from the Warriors perspective, was probably the worst of versus the Celtics and Heat option. I think that the Celtics would be the worst because the Warriors are usually a really good team at being able to hide Curry, being able to hide Poole on defense. Because I mean, it's no secret they're not the greatest on ball defenders, and Curry's gotten a lot better. And Poole just doesn't have that. I think he just doesn't have that understanding of the game that Curry had. Like, I mean, Curry used to be a bad defender when he was young, a lot younger in his career. But as he got older, he became a bit more of a decent defender, right? Like people say about with Luka. Like Luka, he just needs to play a little bit of defense, like 3, 4, or 5 seconds of defense. That's exactly what Stephen Curry learned to do. But what I think against the Celtics is, there's going to be no hiding because everybody on that court on the Celtics team causes a mismatch to the point where Curry or Poole is just going to get like outweighed, out physical, and the length is really going to get to them. And I also think, when we're talking about the length, I think that the Celtics length is going to allow them to be able to run a multitude of lineups. If they want to switch, they can switch. If they want to run a big lineup with Big Rob and Big Al down there, they can do that. Or like how Jay said, they can switch it up to the small lineup and run a lineup with Grant Williams out there. And then if you want to just go the traditional style, the Celtics do have Big Al, Big Rob down there, and right now, currently, players who are being guarded by Robert Williams are shooting negative -6% of their original shooting percentage. But I'm not even talking just for defense. I also think that Big Rob, Big Al, and just the Celtics' length is going to help them on the offensive rebounding. I mean, Kevon Looney, man, goated. He has in 2 different series now been again. I'm not going to say the sole reason, but a very big reason why the Warriors were able to make that next jump over to the next series, and that's that rebounding. I don't know if Kevon Looney can. I'm not going to doubt him because I've doubted him the last 2 series and he's proved me wrong. But I don't know if he can hold up Big Rob and Big Out on there all to him, man. So to me, on my side of things, I just think that the Celtics have too many different options. They can play small if the Warriors want to play small. They can play big, which I don't think the Warriors can necessarily play. And another reason is, I mean, you kind of talked about it, Shaba, is that I just don't really feel like the Warriors have been really fully tested yet. I mean, first round, they got a Jokic and only Jokic. Second round, 3 games of Ja. Third round, really Luka and only Luka. And then while on the other hand, I just think that the confidence that the Celtics got from knocking out KD, Kyrie, Giannis, and I get it, no Chris Middleton, but that's still your reigning champion. So I just think that confidence that they get from beating all those teams has just been huge. And then this is a point that I'm kind of as I close here. I want to talk about the Warriors' experience, and yes, the Warriors have a lot of experience, but I'm talking backs against the wall, right? The only players on that team who know what it's like because again, I don't feel like they've been tested throughout this playoff series. I don't think that they've had their backs against the wall. They've been favored or been facing a team that they're most likely realistically not going to beat them. So I looked at it. Let's look at the Warriors' experience and which of these players actually do have experience having their backs against the wall in a playoff setting, in a final setting. The only players on that team that do is Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, and Andre Iguodala. Everybody else on that team has no deep playoff experience, has no finals experience. And I just think that when it comes into finals, when you got thousands and thousands and thousands of people yelling down your throat, all of this, I think that there's a lot of things that go out of the window. And I think that for some of these young guys, some of those things are going to go out the window. And I kind of think to that 2020 bubble year, right? I don't think that the Miami Heat, if it wasn't a bubble, that they would have made it to the championship, because I think you take a young kid. I think Tyler Hero was like 19, 20 at that time. You take a young kid like Tyler Hero and you throw him in NBA Finals in Los Angeles or on anywhere. Who doesn't matter who they were playing, bro. He is not playing at that same level. He was in playing rec, playing pickup, like how he's played his whole life, man. So that's just what I think. I think some of these young guys some of this stuff's going to go out the window. And lastly, man, we know about the Celtics' away record. They can play away. They're not just a team that wins at home, and they've won the last 6 of 7 games in Golden State. So with all that being said, I got Warriors. I got Celtics in 7.
Yeah, this is going to be a series. This is going to be a series for the ages, regardless of the outcome.
Real quick, I have a question for both of you. So I was thinking when I was looking at this matchup, and I was trying to think of who is the most key player for both teams. And I was looking at it, and I don't know what you guys think, but for me, I would say for the Warriors, I think it's going to have to be Andrew Wiggins. I think he's going to have to really step up and be the Andrew Wiggins that we saw against the Mavs, because he's really the guy who has to be on Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum has just absolutely exploded this season. I mean, he's been so good. So Andrew Wiggins has to be all over him. And for the Celtics, I'm going to have to say Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart has a really good history of going up against Steph Curry. So I think that he's going to be probably the most important. Him, and I would actually say Al Horford for the Celtics. So when I was looking at that, I was wondering, what do you guys think? Who is the guy for it? Doesn't necessarily, obviously Curry is the best guy and Tatum is the best guy, but who is the most key important player for each team in your guys' mind?
I mean, I think
whoever wants to.
Yeah. I think it's really a no-brainer on the Celtics side. I think it's definitely got to be Marcus Smart guarding the Curry and all these great guards. And I think on the Warriors side, you hit it on the head, man. It's got to be Andrew Wiggins. When we've said it multiple times on this pod, when he is there, the Warriors genuinely have that fourth all-star superstar player on their team that takes them to a whole nother level, and which is why I'm assuming my brother Jay has the Warriors winning this series, Jay, right? So if that's the case, brother, talk to me. And then also if you answer that X factor question too.
Yeah, let me start off by saying that the X factor, I'm going to switch it up and say for the Celtics, I believe in this series, the Warriors are one of the best teams. Yes, the Celtics are a switching team. They're one of the best they switch the most actually percentage wise out of all the teams in the NBA. They pride themselves on switching and being able to guard 1 through 5. And yes, I agree that. You switch it to the Warriors, what are they good at doing? They see multiple times that players they want to switch on to Stephen Curry, whether it be offensively or defensive. So Boston's going to do that and expect that. But I see on that, the flip side on Boston, I think that might hurt them having the ability with their two big men and Robert Williams and Al Horford. I don't think that's their best lineup. I believe their best lineup is one of those two bigs on and Grant Williams. I think the play of Grant Williams, when their ability, like I said earlier, when their ability to play small ball and have Grant Williams at the 4 or the 5, I think that's when they're at their best. That's why I think Grant Williams is going to be huge. He has to stay out of foul trouble. He has to be able to stay on the floor, defend without fouling, because he's a Draymond light, in my opinion. I'm not going to say he can build himself into that player eventually. He's definitely not on that level yet, but he reminds me a lot of a young Draymond in that he can guard 1 through 5. Offensively, he's starting to see those reads. He's making better plays, and he's been able to actually shoot the ball, or maybe shoot the ball like a young Draymond, as we saw, because Draymond certainly can't shoot it like that anymore after his shoulder injuries. But
he did against the Mavs. 3-pointers.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not what I say is a reliable 3-point shot. Yeah. Like you need him to take those shots in the flow of a game. Yeah, absolutely. But we're not relying on Draymond to knock down threes. Let's be real here. But on the flip side, I think Otto Porter is going to be the X factor for the Warriors. Him coming back, he's got to be able to stay healthy. But I think if they're able to play small, he's 6'8", 6'9", can bang with those guys like Porter, and then his ability to stretch the floor as well. Because you add him into that lineup, you take Looney off the floor. What is he doing great against Dallas? You saw Shaba again the series before that against Memphis. They were able to put on Otto Porter in that series because number one, like I said, he can stretch the floor, he can knock down shots, he's a great mid-range shooter, and he can rebound, and he's a good defender as well, a serviceable defender. So Otto Porter going to be huge for the Dubs if they want to pull this out. But let me talk about the series, man. And this was tough. Like obviously, it wasn't for me. I think regardless, you talked about experience, Shaba. Regardless. I just see these two opponents. Boston's had a great run. They've had to get here. They built that scar tissue in this playoffs. But what I saw from Boston, as talented they are, arguably the most talented team in the playoffs throughout this playoffs. But I saw inconsistency throughout this playoffs. I saw number one. They took care of business against Brooklyn. But I saw in that Milwaukee series, they could have ended that in 5. They could have ended that in 6. But it went all the way to 7 because, number one, their true point guard, a guy they rely on, Marcus Smart, who has improved his playmaking. He's improved his decision-making, his shots. But there's times where we see the Marcus Smart of old. And when I see that, I see a team who lacks a true number one floor general point guard. We saw Kemba couldn't get it done. Kyrie couldn't get it done. But I still see this Boston Celtics team, and I see guys who can get down the lane, who can create. Marcus Smart, like I said, he's improved his ability, but I don't see a true floor general on that side of that things. And then defensively, absolutely the best team that the Warriors have seen. In terms of, I already mentioned their switching, their ability, their length. That's going to be a problem. You saw the Warriors struggle with that against Memphis. But what are the teams that the Boston Celtics have played in rounds 1, 2, and 3 all pride themselves on? What do they do best? Kyrie and Kevin Durant, the best isolation players on the planet. So what is Boston good at? They're good at switching. 1 through 5, they can switch. And absolutely, can Marcus Smart guard one-on-one Kyrie for some possessions? Yes. Can Jason Tatum guard Kevin Durant for some possessions and then switch on to Grant Williams? He gets him for some positions. Absolutely, yes. That's what Boston's good at. So they're able to get down to an undermanned team who lacks shooter, who lacked continuity, a team who hadn't played with each other throughout that whole season, a Brooklyn team who just wasn't who wasn't really a team, let's be honest. They were able to get them done. Flip it to the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending NBA champions. What do they do well? What does Giannis do? He's a great isolation scorer. Who are they missing? They're missing Chris Middleton, who was their best pick and roll ball handler, who scored. Yeah, their closer. They're missing that dude. So what is Milwaukee? They were able to get it down against this Milwaukee team who had more weapons, with Drew Holiday, with better role players, guys who built that scar tissue. And I'm going to talk about scar tissue a little bit more when it comes to the experience of the Warriors and what I mean by the definition of scar tissue and building that up and that experience, that championship experience, being there and done that. But so I'll talk more about Milwaukee. They were able to shut them down, but they struggled times. That's why I talk about experience, and times where they could have closed it out in 5, but they weren't able to do that because there was times when Marcus Smart had an opportunity to get a great shot and he settled for okay to a bad shot because there's that inconsistency, that inexperience of a first-year coach, sometimes getting out coached, to be honest. And then I'm going to talk about the last series, an undermanned team. And I'm not to mention Boston struggled with their injuries as well. Like they've been in and out. Robert Williams been in and out. Marcus Smart's been in and out. And then last series, Miami Heat, a team, Kyle Lowry, not his usual self, not the player that in 2019 won that NBA championship. The dude is flopping all around the court, man. Him and Marcus Smart, honestly, the biggest floppers in the league. That was hard to watch. I'm not gonna lie, that game 7. But when I saw in this team, you see a Jimmy Butler, who a player who is an isolation bucket, but that's one player. So Boston, what were they able to do? They were able to lock in on one player, shut him down. They're able to switch. They're able to attack Max Strus on the defensive end. So you're giving that up on the defensive end, but an isolation team at best. And an isolation player who can't even score at 3 levels. Let's be honest. Jimmy Butler is he's not a Giannis. He's not he doesn't have that capabilities to get down the hole like that. But yes, he can score 1 through 2. So I see those 3 ways, those paths that the Celtics were able to get there. And boy, have they not seen a team with the weapons that the Golden State Warriors have. Number 1, the best shooter of all time in Stephen Curry. The second best shooter of all time in Klay Thompson. Jordan Poole, we've seen what he's come down. Inconsistent. I would definitely say Jordan Poole is inconsistent. But if out of those 3 players, if 2 or one of them's on, you have Andrew Wiggins. You have those supplemental scoring that you talked about, Shaba. That the depth of the Warriors and Moses Moody and Otto Porter Jr. and GP2, who's coming back, another versatile defender who's going to be huge for the Warriors. Draymond Green, he can get down the hole. And if he's aggressive, I really see that Boston's going to be able to switch, yes, but there's just too many weapons offensively. And then add into the mix, I think if that Warriors are able to win the rebounding battle, which we've seen from Andrew Wiggins, who stepped up, who's been arguably, like you said, the best player for the Warriors throughout this run. You look at Kevon Looney, who's turned into to, I mean, Hakeem Olajuwon. I don't know, man. The dude's just been on another level, man. So you look at all the depth, and I just think it's going to be a tough defensive battle. It's going to come down to experience and scar tissue. 2015, the Golden State Warriors won the NBA Finals. This was the first finals for Stephen Curry. This was the first finals for Klay Thompson, for Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala. They got it done there, albeit an undermanned Cavaliers team. You push that to 2016. What kills you doesn't make you stronger. They blew a 3-1 lead. And you remember this as a competitor. Sometimes you have to lose to win. And I think all these experiences, you bring in KD, you're able to win 2 with him. You won 2 straight. You have all the injuries that you did in 2019. Klay Thompson, he remembers getting knocked out in Game 6. When if you think, and although as a competitor, you're thinking you win Game 6, you go back to Toronto, maybe you have a chance in Game 7. All those losses come back to winning, because sometimes you got to lose to win. You build that scar tissue. You're a bodybuilder. You building that scar tissue in the weight room. You got to get stronger, and it only makes you stronger. And I think all those experiences, yes, Boston's had their run. They've gotten to Game 7s, but they don't have the experience that the Warriors have had through losing and understanding that those losses can turn into wins. And I think that experience alone, albeit their top 3 players, all along, John, I know you talked about it, that other players don't have it, but as soon as Jordan Poole, and he's even talked about it, as soon as he came into the league, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Kevon Looney, he's played in the NBA. This is his biggest role, but all these guys, as soon as they walk in the door, they're learning about. So how did you win that NBA championship? What work does it take to win an NBA title? They're learning throughout this process, and it's made them be ready for this exact moment. And I think that alone, with Steve Kerr at the helm, I wanted to say Warriors in 5, but I'm not going to disrespect what Boston has got to. I don't think if it goes to Game 6, I think Boston's at home. They might be able to pull that out. So I'm going to respectfully say Warriors in 7 for all those reasons, man. So I got Warriors in 7.
Wow.
Boy, guys, this is gonna be just one of those grinded out series. Man, I mean, we have the offensive firepower of the Warriors, we have the defensive versatility of the Celtics. Man, it's just the best of its class, man. But my guy Shaba, what's up? What are you about to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up because we talked about Marcus Smart. Well, they also got Derek White at the trade deadline, and he has been huge for them because, like I said before, they don't have much ball handling. So him and Marcus Smart are and Tatum obviously are there, and a little bit of Jaylen Brown are there, pretty much their only ball handlers. But Derek White also brings defense. Check this out. In Derek White, in the whole series against the Heat, again, when he was defending Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo, Max Strus, and Duncan Robinson, those were all 188 possessions. They only scored 9 points on them. He forced 7 turnovers. He had 6 blocked shots. So he's a really good defender as well. So he's really underrated. So I think that he's also going to be a little bit of an X factor for the Celtics. But the Celtics are a really good defensive team, but the Warriors are a completely different animal when it comes to defending them because they are constantly moving. They're constantly weaving in and out of players. Curry, gives the ball to Poole, and then one second he's over here, the other second he's over there. So he's always moving, and that's when you look at the Warriors, that is something that you often forget. Like, for instance, my Mavs in the conference finals, that was like a gut punch. We went in confident. We were one of the best defensive teams, but against the Warriors, we were just completely outmatched because of mostly just that ball movement. So that makes a huge, huge difference. And also, I liked something that Jay said. The Celtics, they really haven't if you think about it, they really haven't played teams who have a lot of scoring options. The Nets, they had obviously Kevin Durant and Kyrie, who were amazing. But outside of that, they didn't really have much consistency scoring wise. The Bucks, they didn't have Chris Middleton, obviously, who's their best closer, obviously, after Giannis. Even though Chris Middleton is the closer over Giannis, I would say. And then against the Heat, we just saw throughout that whole series that they just did not, they had the defense, they just didn't have the offense. So I think that this is going to be a really interesting matchup because of that, because this is going to be the true test for the Celtics. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out. And also the Celtics point differential in the playoffs, it's really interesting against the Nets in the whole series. The point differential against the Nets was plus 18. Point differential against the Bucks was plus 55, and against the Heat was plus 37. So that just kind of gives you, an idea on what it's like when they go up against teams that have really good scoring. The Nets were plus 18 because of Durant and Kyrie, and they were able to kind of focus their defense on those two players. But with the Warriors, you can't just focus your defense on one guy because, like I said, they're stacked. So it's just going to be a really, really fun series to watch. I'm really excited. I love defensive matches. I love defensive games. I just love defense. So I actually think that this might be a low scoring series because of that defense. But yeah, I'm just really, really interested to see how the Celtics number one defense matches up against the Warriors. We've seen it obviously in the regular season, but in the finals, that's a completely different animal. And I'm just really excited to see how the Celtics manage that. And then just one last thing I wanted to throw. Jay, you really pointed out the Celtics inconsistency and how they don't capitalize on moments. They cannot do that against the Warriors because the Warriors are just too good, too experienced, and they know how to take advantage of situations. So the Celtics really need to tighten it up, and they just need to be as consistent as possible.
Yeah. So, but to your point, man, I didn't even finish my point about number one, like the cutting and moving. So my point was saying the isolation teams that the Celtics have faced. And my point leading up to that was, yes, the Warriors with all their ball movement, with all their weapons they have, but it comes down to, and Jay, you always say it, we always say it in games and situations, who the best player in this series. And we've heard all the rumblings. We've heard all the narrative. We've heard all the narratives. We've heard all the things being said about legacies and this and that. And I know one dude who's heard it the most about he doesn't show up in finals, which isn't true. But you hear it. I hear it. We all hear it. And that man is that the dude I'm talking about is obvious. It's Stephen Curry. We saw what he did. He struggled at times, but his presence on the floor, number one, I'm just going to say he's going to be the finals MVP because the Warriors are going to win. He's going to be the best player on the floor. He is the best player on the floor. That's a 2-time MVP, 1-time unanimous. Put some respect on his name. And I just think we're going to see a different motivated Stephen Curry. And from the whole Warriors team who, first of all, Clay, Dre, and Steph, who said they would never be back at this point in the finals without Kevin Durant. Well, newsflash, they're here, and Stephen Curry's here, and he's ready to go. I'm expecting just something different because he's a superstar that you cannot just guard in isolation. Yes, he might be able to get in isolation, but he doesn't need the ball to be dominant, to be effective. Him being on the floor gets Jordan Poole going, gets Klay Thompson going, gets Andrew Wiggins shots that he's never gotten to his point in this career, gets Draymond Green easy runs to the rim. So I just think that alone, just Stephen Curry being elite masterclass, 2-time MVP that he is, hearing all this rumbling, getting all this motivation. I just wouldn't want to be the Celtics, to be honest, because I'm expecting just a dominant Stephen Curry, man. So I thought I'd get that off before we talk about this rebuttal, man.
All right, guys. So Shaba, I want to, I want to talk to you, Shab. I wrote down some here that you were talking about. So you were talking about, how the Celtics hasn't really faced a team like the Warriors. And while I agree, I don't think that that Brooklyn team was as good as a Warriors team. I don't think that Milwaukee team without Chris Middleton was as good as that Warriors team. I don't think Miami is as good as that Warriors team. So I agree with that narrative, but I look at it from the other perspective, from the other side of things, that I think that all of these hobbled teams are better than every single team that the Warriors have played so far. So I look at it from the perspective of the Warriors haven't faced a team like the Celtics, offensively, defensively, in every way. Like every team, you take that Mavericks team. I know my guy Shaw was a big Mavericks fan, but I don't think in any way are they better than the Celtics. I know that since 2022 they're one of the top defense, but I would still take the Celtics defense over them. Don't even get me started on offensive and role players. Take the Celtics every day. I'll take the Celtics every day over a Memphis, especially a hobbled Memphis with only 3 games of John Morant. I'll take the Celtics every single day over the Nuggets, especially the Nuggets this year. So while I agree with that narrative, I'm more looking at it from the other side of things, and that's why it brings me my question to you, which is, while I agree, don't you think that if it works that way, it also works the other way, to where now the Warriors are now they're really in for the test?
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. But that's where I think the experience comes in, which is something, obviously, like I pointed out, the Celtics don't have. They have 0 finals experience when the Warriors were 123, I believe, games. So they may not have seen a team like the Celtics here in this playoff run, but their core guys, their coach, they have seen teams like this throughout, and that's where veteran players come in, and that's where they make the difference, because they're the ones that can keep your other teammates cool, composed. They're going to tell you, just stick to what you're doing, and so I think that the Warriors, this is going to be their biggest test, clearly. But I think that at the end of the day, I think that the Warriors' experience is really going to come in, and just their way of play. Like we were talking about with Jay, with their ball movement and stuff. This is just, the Celtics haven't seen a team like the Warriors, and the Warriors haven't seen a team like the Celtics. So that's where this is going to be really fun, because we've pointed out plenty of times that they're really similar, but they're completely different too. So, their stats and stuff might say that they're, very similar, but they're not. So, yeah, I mean, it's really just going to come down to, I think, veteran leadership for the Warriors. Obviously, guys like Curry, Draymond, but also guys like Andre Iguodala, who isn't playing, Otto Porter, who is a veteran. He hasn't been deep through the playoffs, but, these guys, yeah. So, Curry, Draymond, Clay, I think those guys are going to be the ones who are going to be able to keep the other teammates composed, and they're not going to freak out, they're not going to collapse. We haven't seen the Warriors collapse, but we have seen the Celtics collapse plenty of times this just in the playoffs. So it's really going to come down to Ime Udoka, how he's going to get his message across to his players when they feel defeated, because I can see it already happening. Game 1, the Warriors at one point are up by like 18 points, but the Celtics have been down by 18 points plenty of times. So, they're really resilient. And what always brings them back is their defense and just shooting, really, because they have really great shooting. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge for both, in the sense that neither team has seen a team like the opposing team that they're about to play.
Shaba, question for you, and John, you can answer this too as well. I think I heard you correctly, John. But Shaba, who do you think, and John, you can go, who's the best player in this series? And then it leads me to my next question.
That's
in your
tough.
estimation.
That's tough. I think I'm gonna have to go with Curry. But really, this season, it's been Tatum. These playoffs, it's been Tatum. I think it's a thing of a 1A, 1B right now in these playoffs, not legacy, not historically, because obviously Curry blows Tatum out the water. I'm just talking about right now, this season, these playoffs. I'm still going to go with Curry, but I think that Tatum is right there.
Yeah, I'm. That's perfect way to put it, Shaba. Curry blows Tatum out the water, career wise, legacy wise. But this playoffs, this season, 100% Jason Tatum.
This playoffs, this season, the one that Stephen Curry was a leading NBA MVP candidate up until about halfway through the season when he got into
and then he got into that terrible slump that Jason Tatum never got into.
I just said that, but the same. I don't think it's head and over heels Jason Tatum, to your point. But anyways, leads me to my next question. Glad I got your feedback on that. So my next question is, or my next statement is, yes. Number one, that adds to Curry's motivation, which I think is extremely scary. I'd be scared, like I said, of the Celtics. But I think just the simple fact, and Shaba, you said it best. You talked about Klay Thompson and how significant and how much of an impact he has in this series. And when Klay Thompson has played at the level that we saw in Game 5 and in Game 6 against Memphis in that closeout game, the Warriors are unbeatable. Because of the other weapons that they have. Because if you have Jordan Poole, and then not only to add to the fact that there's going to be times, I think, if Klay Thompson's on and he's scoring, number one, they haven't lost when he scored over 30 points, over actually 25 points when he's on his game, on his shit, as we see Klay Thompson, who's been inconsistent because the dude simply hasn't played for two years. But I think that adds to the fact that, number one, this week of rest is going to be huge for a guy who Klay Thompson, who has had 2 years off and has a whole week of rest. I think that's going to be significant and play a huge part in these first 2 games. And I'm expecting a big game 1 from him because of that very reason, because of all this rest. But number 2, I just think it takes a lot of pressure off Jordan Poole to play and operate when Steph and Klay, who I expect to have good big game 1s, because he's able to operate. But where I see is going to be, he's going to be definitely attacked. We saw in the Celtics and Heat series, we saw what they did to Max Strus. I think that's going to be similar to Jordan Poole, and they're going to attack him. And I'm going to interested to see if he's going to be able to stay, like John, like you had said, if he's going to be able to be just a mediocre at best defender, where he's not such a liability defensively, where he can stay on the floor. But if he's not, enters the chat is GP2, Gary Payton II, which is huge. How timely that's going to be. If he's not available for game 1, they say definitely game 2 to get those extra 2 days of rest, because in between game 1, which is on Thursday, they don't play till Sunday. So it's an extra 3 days, or however you want to look at 2-3 days to that game. But Gary Payton, and if the Celtics want to go small, the Warriors have the ability to go small as well. And I think that's huge, because Gary Payton, we've seen him in that rim runner, and he can rebound, and he can go on Jaylen Brown, who, for as good as he is offensively, as good as he is scoring, we heard Ivan, if you haven't heard, check out that episode as we posted today on our story. But as good as he is, man, I just really think Jaylen Brown, and you can see it to the tail of the tape, the dude struggles with dribbling. It's a fact. The dude struggles with dribbling, and so does this whole Celtics team, who struggled. And John, you talked about this too, I believe, about this team who struggled with the ball. With 19 turnovers, this Heat had 19 steals in that game 3. So this series, as much as it comes down to defensively, I think it also comes down to the team who takes care of the ball the most, and enters the equation experience. As much as the Warriors have been throwing it around, I would love to sit first row or courtside at this series, because you're definitely going to touch the ball at some point, because both of these teams throw the ball all over the place. But enters the experience, that scar tissue I talked about earlier when I was talking about this series, that the Warriors just simply have more experience. They've been in these close situations. And if it comes down to a close, tight game where both of these teams have turned over the ball and it's the last 2 minutes of the game, I just think they have the best closer in the game, and that's Stephen Curry. So that's what I just add that little piece.
Hey, I hear you. I hear you. Real quick, I want to touch on some things that you talked about. You talked about the turnovers. I think the Warriors are the last team that are probably talking about turnovers. I think they're averaging 14.7 turnovers per game. So that's going to be tough. Jordan Poole, yes, he will. If Klay Thompson can play at that level, we know Klay Thompson that will be the ultimate lid opener for Jordan Poole, because I just generally think that if he's expected to, if the Warriors are like, all right, we're relying on Jordan, not saying he's our 1A option, but we're relying on Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole needs to do what he needs to do for us to win. I think then you guys have already lost, because I just think that while, yes, I like Jordan Poole a lot, great young talent, he's inconsistent. And yes, he's learning a lot. I know, Jay, you made that point earlier about these young guys. They're learning a lot. Yes, I get it. They're around Hall of Famers and Clay and Dre and Curry, but it doesn't just work like that. You don't just learn and then you're ready to go. Finals are a whole different thing. And I think a lot of that's going to go out the window. Also, this is more kind of on where you were talking about, Shaba, with that experience. And like I hear you guys the experience, but it's really only Clay, Dre, and Looney. Iguodala's not playing.
The coach too, Steve Kerr's been to 6 to 8 finals. This is Udoka's first rodeo, man. And let's be real. He got out coached in the last series against Eric Spoelstra and the series before that by Mike Bolt. Yes, absolutely he did. There's no reason in hell that series should have gone 7. Whether you look at it as the players or 7, they shouldn't have gone 7, and you know that, Jay.
Okay, Jay, so then you're gonna tell me that Jason Kidd's a better coach than Steve Kerr, because there's no reason in hell the Warriors shouldn't have swept the Mavericks. They were a better team.
On, that's different.
Yes,
that's different. On. It's hard. The Mavericks. You're talking about the same Mavericks team who beat the statistically the best team in the NBA, in the Phoenix Suns. So this ain't no joke Mavericks team.
This is the Bucks. The Bucks.
Hey Jay, it's hard to beat any team in the NBA four times in a row, let alone in the Western Conference Finals, let alone in the Western Conference Finals.
And the Celtics did it. And the Celtics did it. Celtics
did it against who?
They swept the Nets with KD.
A depleted Nets team.
Okay, Nets team. Jay, the Bucks.
That wasn't even a team. Let's be real.
The Bucks are a better team than that Mavericks team. That Mavericks team wasn't even the team. The Warriors
should have took care of them in 5. Gentlemen sweep.
Exactly. You should have took care of them in 4, but you didn't. The inconsistent play of the Warriors.
The Mavericks hit 20. The Mavericks hit 23s. That's a historic game. And
the Heat had 19 steals. That's a historic playoff franchise record in steals. Yeah, it's 2 historic nights. So then, what are you saying? All right. So
they brought him to 7, and they brought him to 7, and almost lost to a Jimmy Butler 3. That's how close they were about going home back to Boston. Now they're in San Francisco, waiting to play game 1 against the Warriors. So what's your point? They went at 7. The longest series that the Warriors had was 6, and the Boston Celtics had 2 7-game series in a row.
They had played all hobbled teams, and again, it is only Clay, Dre,
and they have a 12-4 record. You're right.
Yeah, they have a 12. Yeah, against all hobbled teams. Don't you think you should be undefeated against a John Morant? 3 games without John Morant.
Come on, John.
Jokic only. Come on, man. Come on. We just asking for some realness. Nah. But look, guys. So what? Like I was saying, the experience. While yes, I agree with you. The Celtics, nobody's on the Celtics has touched that finals floor. Realistically, I think people need to stop looking at it like, wow, the experience is just going to blow them out the water. Because yes, 123-0 looks big when you look at it in numbers. But like how you always say, Jay, you could fit the narrative. You could fit the narrative you could fit the story to fit narrative. You could fit the number to fit narratives. It's only Curry, Clay, Dre, Looney, Steve Kerr, and Andre Iguodala. Not going to touch the floor. Not really.
He might. If he's healthy, I expect to see him on the floor.
I would hope not for the Warriors. I wouldn't hope.
I would love to see Andre Iguodala on the floor.
For the Celtics, they would too.
To be fair, you're saying that the experience is only Curry, Clay, Draymond, Kerr. That's a big part of their team.
Yeah, that's four starters. You just named 4 starters. That's a lot of experience. Added to the mix of one other player. That's 4 players. They're floor closing lineups.
Okay. So you want to play with 4? You want to try to play with 4?
Add in one. Andrew Wiggins, a 2-way player. Andrew
Wiggins
defender.
Is it okay? You're relying on Andrew Wiggins.
Absolutely, I think he's a key to the success for the Warriors.
Celtics in 4. If you're relying on Andrew Wiggins, Celtics in 4. If you're relying on Andrew Wiggins,
come on, John. Come on, man.
Come on, Jay. You're relying on Andrew Wiggins. You don't think
I didn't say we're relying on him. I said he's a huge part of what
I asked you.
He's a huge part of what they do. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. He's extremely great. He's been playing great all playoffs. There's nothing wrong with relying on Andrew Wiggins.
No, there's a lot wrong with relying on Andrew Wiggins.
What's wrong with relying on Andrew Wiggins? Who slowed down Luka Doncic. He still shot 51%. I'm not taking that away, but that's a world-class top 5 player in the NBA. Oh, Andrew Wiggins, who stopped Ja Morant when he was in that possession, led them to a win. They were 2-1 in those 3 games with a 30-point victory.
What I'm saying, my brother, is the other guys. We can't expect these role players to shine. They've never been here. So that's why I'm talking this whole experience argument.
The Celtics have never been here. No player on the Celtics has been to the NBA finals. What's your point?
So what I'm saying is let's stop with this experience argument, because realistically, there is 4 players on that team. 3 are going to play.
What? Yeah, but four starters. What are you talking about? Klay Thompson, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney. Those are 4 starters. And you want to throw in Andre Iguodala? That's 5 who can be on the floor at the same time. Who we'll probably see in that lineup if Andre Iguodala is able to play some basketball.
He's not going to. Andre Iguodala is not.
It doesn't matter, but it's still 4. If you want to say 4, then it's 4 starters. So what's your point? That's 4 players with finals experience, multiple finals, if I may add.
Listen,
go ahead, Shaba. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say sometimes it just comes down to one possession, and that one possession experience can make the difference. So that's why I throw out experience out there, because it does matter. It doesn't always matter, but in the big picture, it helps you kind of ground yourself and feel more comfortable, and you know what to expect. You know what's coming. It doesn't hit you in the face and you're like shocked, like what happened? Like, no, they know what to expect. So that's why I think the experience is, I'm not going to say it's the one thing that's going to decide the series, but I think it's at least a considerable, difference and, advantage for the Warriors.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact is, John, and you say this is going to go 7 games. I can see it going 7 games. I have the Warriors in 7, but if it's coming down to those 1-2 possession games, and Shaba, you said it too. You said it best, that this is such an even matchup. So it most realistically is going to come down to possessions, and that's when the experience kicks in. You have 4 players on the floor who have been there. That's such a huge factor, and not to mention the best player on the floor, in my opinion.
Yeah, there we go. Absolutely, in your opinion, Jay. But man, look, guys,
2-time MVP.
Yeah, Jason Tatum,
unanimous MVP.
Jason Tatum could
Jason Tatum could not be the most valuable player. Stop it right now.
Stop it,
right
Jay. Be real with yourself.
He's never won an MVP.
He's 24, I'm just stating the facts. My dog. Curry.
I'm just stating the facts.
He's 24.
But I'm stating the facts that Stephen Curry's won 2 MVPs and 1 unanimous. Jason Tatum hasn't won diddly squat.
He's 24. When the Celtics win the championship and you see Jason Tatum hosting that trophy, we'll play this back. But all right, guys. So then let's get to our last segment of the show here, and that is I have 5 who's most likely to here, guys, and from whatever team you guys just let me know. So let's start with the big one. Who is most likely to get a 50 burger?
Between who?
The Celtics players and Warriors players?
Yeah, between Celtics players and Warriors players, yeah.
I'm going to go with Curry. It's his 3-point shooting. I think it's going to be hard for the Celtics to keep up with Curry. So I think that Curry, although Tatum has really been scoring and efficiently, so it's another one of those kind of 1A, 1B. But if I had to choose, I'm going to go with Curry.
Jay? Yeah, I'm gonna go with the unanimous 2-time MVP.
For sure. I'm gonna go with Tatum, the player who's been playing better this season. Only on the basis of I think that Warriors team is deeper, so Curry doesn't need to put a 50 ball for them to win. But I think that when Jason Tatum is aggressively looking to score and being that aggressive scorer, the Celtics are usually at their best. So I'm gonna go.
50 is a lot of points, man.
50 is a lot of points for
50 ball in the finals. That's cold.
That's insane. That's all from Giannis.
I know one person who's done it. Didn't Bron get 50 against the Warriors?
Bron got 50 against the Warriors.
Yeah, game one he got 51 points,
50. That's
9 rebounds, 8 assists.
John, that's what I was talking about.
J.R. Smith when he ruined it.
They should have won that game, but still 50 points in any game, obviously, but 50 points in the finals. That's LeBron level. I don't know if Kobe. Yeah, but anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Giannis. Yeah, he went to
Giannis had 50 right last.
Yeah, last closing game. But that's a good point, John. The kind of spreading of the points. I think that from that perspective, Tatum probably has a better chance, but still Curry with the shooting, I would say I would still pick Curry.
Okay. So for our next one, who is most and for this one, give me for each team. I know you talked about it earlier, Shaba, but I don't know if you guys want to touch on a little bit more. But who is most likely to be the biggest X factor for their respective team?
I'm gonna go again. The Warriors, Andrew Wiggins, his defense, and he's really been really aggressive scoring wise. So I'm going to go with him because he's the best matchup for Jason Tatum. And for the Celtics, I'm going to have to go Marcus Smart. He has a good history of guarding Stephen Curry. He's really improved. He's not making as many kind of crazy shots that he shouldn't take. He's been a lot more disciplined. Now you still see, like you said, John, you still see the old Marcus Smart every once in a while, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Marcus Smart for the Celtics.
I feel it. I'm gonna do it and break it down from defensively and offensively for both teams. So defensively, I think it's Robert Williams. John, you mentioned their ability to play big and how the Warriors can't match up with that. I think of Robert Williams as a huge he's going to be a huge factor of the Celtics. Obviously, if he's healthy and available to play, his ability to change shots at the rim. The Warriors, who did they struggle with most? The only series that went 6 was the Memphis Grizzlies because they had Jaren Jackson changing shots at the rim. We saw Jordan Poole at times look scared to attack the rim, and that was a lot to do with the shot blocking and rim presence of Jaren Jackson. So similarly to that, I think Robert Williams going to be a huge X factor defensively for the Celtics. And then offensively, I think it's Marcus Smart. It's going to come down to, at the end of the day, Jason Tatum's going to be an island. It's going to be him and Wiggins. The Celtics score a lot from isolation. Jaylen Brown's going to be doing his things, but the third option could be Marcus Smart. I think there's going to be a lot of times where Warriors are going to take maybe, they always have those junk defenses. That's another thing that they're good at, and their ability to switch up defenses just like that mid game. We saw them do that against Dallas. We saw them a little bit towards the end of the series against Memphis. But I think Marcus Smart, his decision making, his shot making is going to be huge if they're going to be able to steal a lot of games, because I just think he has at times, like I said, they lack a true. As good as he's gotten, I think his decision making, we saw at the end of game 7, all those shots he mixed. Even if he knocks down one of those, that my Celtics win by 5, maybe even 10. Who knows? But I think Marcus Smart, his shot making and playmaking is going to be an X factor for the Celtics. On the flip side, defensively for the Warriors, it's going to be, like I said, Otto Porter. I think his ability to guard the bigger men, and then offensively as well, but just in this case, defensively, his rebounding and presence is going to be huge for the Warriors. And then offensively, I think it's going to be Klay Thompson. Like I said, if he's on, he's knocking down his shots. He's game 6 Klay, but the rest of the games too, the Warriors are going to be extremely hard to beat, almost unbeatable, to be honest. So I think those are the 2 X factors for the Warriors.
Okay, for sure. So honestly, guys, I know we talked about this earlier. The biggest reason why I asked this is because throughout the episode, I switched mine. Jay, the point that you brought up on Jordan Poole was actually a really good point. And for the fact that when Curry and Klay are being targeted on defense, when they are going off and they're being guarded by these Celtics defenders, I think a lot of that is going to fall on Jordan Poole, and just for him to knock down shots, I think that could be a huge swing. I'm not taking nothing away from Andrew Wiggins. Yes, when he plays well, the Warriors are on a whole nother level, but I would have to go Jordan Poole, because his when he contributes is huge. And for the Celtic side of things, yeah, still Marcus Smart, but huge honorable mention to Big Rob, like how Jay was saying, because if he doesn't show up, then like it's really going to be then that's when I think it's gonna be practically impossible for Celtics to beat the Warriors if Big Rob and Big Al is not there. So all right, guys. So then let's keep pushing here. Who is most likely to record a triple-double?
Jason Tatum. I would say Jason
Tatum.
Oh, that's actually a good one too.
I think Draymond. I think Draymond.
I was gonna say Draymond Green. Yeah,
I'll go Draymond Green too. Although Jason Tatum has been like really close to a triple-double in the last like 5-6 games. He's been really close to it on almost every game. So, but yeah, Draymond Green I think is the best answer.
If Jason Tatum gets a triple-double, there's like a 90% chance the Celtics are winning that game. Because when he's at his best, I've said it all along the season, Jay.
All right, guys. So then let me get to this. I'll do this. I'll do this one right here. I didn't know if I should do this one, but who is most likely to get a technical?
Draymond Green. Draymond Green. There's almost a 99% chance he gets a tech somewhere in the playoffs, in the finals.
He will get a technical.
I'd be surprised if, yeah.
Man, all right, guys. So then last question right here, guys. Who is most likely to be, and for your respective teams, for the Celtics and Warriors, who's most likely to be the unexpected hero? Not for the whole series, but for like one game or something like that.
Expected hero. Ooh.
I'm gonna have to go again with Andrew Wiggins. He has been really good. I mean, especially against the Mavs. Andrew Wiggins always was this guy who, you're watching a game, you look at the box score, and you're like, oh, Andrew Wiggins, he has 18 points. When did that? He's such a quiet player most of the times that you don't even notice, that he's out there. But in these playoffs, and especially last round, he was all over the place. He was rebounding, defending, he was scoring, he was driving the ball, shooting the ball. He was great. So for the Warriors, I'm going to go with Andrew Wiggins. For the Celtics, I kind of want to say Derek White. I feel like he has not been shooting well. He's just been in a horrible shooting slump, but I feel like he's going to either have a big defensive stop or some sort of big shot. So, and also, since Marcus Smart is I think he's going to help Steph Curry, or he's going to help Marcus Smart guard Steph Curry. So I think that he's going to be a big factor for the Celtics. But yeah, I think that Derek White at one point is going to have a big play that's going to decide one of these games, because he has just been off in these really since he got to Boston. So I think he's going to redeem himself somehow with one game or something.
Yeah, I like that. I like those choices. I can see Derek White having one of those games as well. But I think for the Celtics is going to be Grant Williams. We saw what he did in, what series was that, against Milwaukee when he had that 7-7 miraculous game. But I could see him having one of those unexpected games where he's knocking down shots, because those guys are going to get shots, similar to Dallas role players who got shots. The Warriors are going to have to give up something if they're taking away those primary scores. So other guys are going to get shots. Derek White, I expect the Warriors to give him a lot of shots, force him to knock down some threes. Marcus Smart, but Grant Williams, his ability to defend 1 through 5 and then rebound, play physical. I think he's going to have one of those huge games. And then on the Warriors, I think it's Otto Porter Jr. I just think that there's going to be one of these games, if he's healthy and able to play, that he comes up big for the Warriors, whether it's being rebounding, knocking down those timely shots that they've needed throughout these playoffs. But those two players, Otto Porter and Grant Williams, for the Warriors and Celtics.
Okay. For the Celtics, I'm actually going with Daniel Tice. I think Daniel Tice is going to get a little bit more run in this series than he has been, honestly, throughout the playoffs, because they can low-key run like a mid ball. You're not too big, you're not too small out there with Daniel Tice. And I think that he'll still be able to, be a killer on the glass and do his thing. But I think the unexpected hero for the Warriors is actually going to be my guy, Jonathan Kuminga, man. I think that he's going to be perfect in this series, like one of those just athletes, just he could play any sport. He could be a DB on football, a great wide receiver and football. And he could also be a great 2 through 4 to realistically. And I just think that for a long athletic team like the Celtics, they're going to want to put a guy like him out there. And I think he's going to make the most of his opportunity, man. I like him a lot. Oh, all right.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
All right, for sure. All right. So then, guys, I think this is a good place for us to go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. This was a great episode, man. Great debate episode. Finals prediction, finals preview. Just tie it in a little bow. We all have 7. Shaba and Jay Hill have Warriors in 7. I have Celtics in 7. I think at the end of the day, man, to kind of like loop it around the same way you started it, Jay, this is going to be a great nitty-gritty series. A great defensive-minded team against a great offensive-minded team, and it's really going to be a chess match with Steve Kerr, Udoka, and all coming from the Greg Popovich family tree line. So, guys, I'm excited. Jay, you're the GOAT. Shaba, you're the GOAT. Any last words, guys?
Man, two sleeps. That's all I gotta say. I don't even remember when I predicted this finals, Jay. I thought it was gonna be the Celtics and Warriors all along. So this is what I think. And number one, the fact that this started was actually the finals that started. The first 2 finalists in the NBA history were the Boston Celtics and the Warriors. I believe at the time they're in Philadelphia, those. But I'm sure the NBA, the 3 homegrown stars on both teams. So, man, I can't wait. This is gonna be so much fun, man.
Yeah, this is gonna be really fun. Jay, you're talking about predicting this. I really, 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 really thought that it wasn't going to be the Warriors. I thought it was, call me a homer, but I really thought it was going to be Mavs Celtics because they both, hear me out, because they both had the kind of identical turnarounds in the year 2022. They were like, I think Celtics had like one more win than the Mavs. The Mavs became like the number 2 defense in the whole league behind the Celtics. They made it far, but the Mavs just made it to the conference finals. So, yeah, I thought it was going to be Mavs Celtics because they both had such a similar story, and I thought it would have been cool. But still, the Warriors are incredible for a reason, and this is going to be a really fun series, and I can't wait.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. So for all the family out there, man, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check us out, man. And don't forget to check my guy Shaba and the Big Shot Pod out. I'm gonna link all of Shaba's social media platforms, podcasts, everything in the description down below, so you'll know exactly where to go to find my guy. But for us over here, man, like how Jay said, 2 sleeps. That's all I gotta say, man. Right. 2 sleeps. But that's it, man. We out of here, y'all. Clutch Talk out.
Peace.